Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Journey on the Podcast. I'm Ben Sanguinetti, and this is my good friend, Nate Jones. And as always, we are here to serve the world by talking about our own experiences. And life is a journey, and we all just need to have a little bit more fun, right? So I'm really excited for this episode today. Before I give it back over to Nate, we are going to talk about meditation. And I thought it'd be great to just chat about that for a second because we always check in. And the reason why we check in and do a meditation is because me and Nate practice this every day. And it's a big part of our lives. And we're really excited for this topic. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to him to start us off with a little meditation.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Ben. Okay, so let's just take a few breaths, just really simply becoming present, which is another way of saying meditation, just being present. So if you're able to close your eyes, let the eyes close. If you're not able to, that's also okay. You can also meditate with your eyes open. But just start to become aware of your breath. So become aware of how your body's breathing. And if you want to, you can just watch how your body's breathing. Or if you want to, you can breathe with your body. Take a conscious breath. And then as you breathe, just take into account how your body is feeling. Maybe you're able to feel your heart beating. You're probably, feeling what degree of tension or of relaxation is in your body. And very simply, just being with all that stuff. And, in a state of curiosity and a state of acceptance. So as it is what it is. And can you be okay with that just in this moment? Being with a couple more breaths and being with yourself just exactly as you are. All right, thank you very much. So if you want to, go ahead and just, start to open the eyes slowly. You're welcome to keep them closed, obviously. And you're welcome to follow your breath the whole episode. Just, noticing our words in the background. All right, so today we're talking about meditation. And like Ben said, this has become like a really fundamental part of our life. They do it, every day, at least twice a day. And it's really a fundamental part of just life in general. And it's not necessarily some like mystical thing, like it's kind of cracked up to be sometimes. And I don't know. I think maybe it's only thought about it like that, but when someone doesn't know what it is, or when somebody's talking about it that doesn't really know what it is, or have like a true experience of it. And in no means am I saying that we know, everything about meditation, for sure not. But it's so simple. It is so simple. And I was trying to meditate on my own for a good 2 years or so. And I was just trying this and that, the what I found on the internet here and there, the doing different stuff in classes and trainings. And it was always pretty difficult. And then I learned from a teacher, I learned one technique from a teacher, and I just really kind of dedicated myself to that practice. And after that, I was like, oh my God, it's not supposed to be hard at all. It's actually supposed to be the exact opposite. The only hard part is like the letting go and the surrender, because if you try and do meditation, then you're not doing meditation. It's not something that you do. It's actually just like the stopping or the cessation of doing things. And the number one doing, that biggest doing out there for the basically every human being in the world, is thinking. So can we just let go of thinking? It doesn't mean to stop your thoughts, because that's also doing something, stopping my thoughts. That doesn't work. But it's just allowing the thoughts to go, but not thinking. So thinking is something active. We take a thought, either consciously or unconsciously, and then we go with it, and we work with it. Then the mind just starts to create all these possibilities. But if we could just stop thinking and just have the thoughts just like be there, arise and leave, just like arise out of infinity and then dissolve back into infinity, and just be right here. Kind of like, I think about like a big rock just anchored, in a river, and the water is just running over the rock, smoothly and continuously. And the rock isn't like, trying to get the water. Hey, get off me. What the hell? Hey, fish, leaf, what the heck? The rock is just there, just anchored and peaceful, and just allowing the water to just wash over it. So, Ben, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well said, my friend. Well said. Yeah. So, I know there's some people out there, they hear the word meditation and it's, I don't know if I can't do that. And my favorite response that I love from people when I talk about my practice of meditation, my favorite response that I always hear is, my brain doesn't work that way. I can't be that quiet. I can't not sit still. And my response always is, I think you should meditate, because I am the most fidgety person ever. One, I still am. Even when I meditate, I'm fidgety and it doesn't bother me. It's just who I am. And also when it comes to I can't shut off my brain, I love to remind everyone that this big old thing up here, it is a computer. And so if you have a computer and it's not working right, do you just let it be and not restart it, or let it not go to sleep? You have to do that to make it function properly, right? That's what we're doing when we're meditating. And, I forget who even told me that. That isn't a Sanguinetti original. Somebody did tell me that at some point in time. But it really made me click one day that maybe I should keep practicing this more and more. And to make you understand too how simple it is. So for me, how I started is I love music. I love all sorts of different types of music. And so I just made it a habit for 5 minutes a day to listen to my favorite music and be quiet and just listen to music. And that kind of got me in the rhythm of everything. And you can listen to anything. I really recommend listening to reggae music. Think about stuff like Pink Floyd, amazing things right in there. So there's a lot of different stuff you can do, obviously not workout music, but you get what I'm saying. Something peaceful, something calming. Most of those people are people that meditate. So that's why they write the music that they do. Example like Jack Johnson, and everyone in, reggae music like Revolution and Slightly Stupid and Stick Figure. All those guys meditate a lot. So that is how simple it is to get you going with it, right? And that's the most important thing. We think it's so hard, we think we don't have time, but if you just start doing it, you'll realize that you're going to want to set aside more and more time to do it. And another thing that really helped me realize it and helped me understand that I can make this a practice is I honestly just started with 5 minutes a day. I took 5 minutes a day to meditate, and then I kept building off of there. And before that, that was 8 minutes, then 10 minutes, And now I do about 20 minutes a day, twice a day. And the most honest response with the two is I'm not perfect. There's times I miss that. But at least I have the practice and something of a backbone that I know I missed it and I make it up somehow, some way. And it just goes a long, long way to really help ground me. And another reason why I love this too and love the practice is, I'll be completely honest with everyone, meditation kind of saved my life when I was going through an addictive time in my life. I am an addict. I've shared this before. It wasn't until I really slowed down and used this practice that I really started becoming more aware of a lot of things that weren't serving me in my life. And it helped me kind of make that shift. So I'll pause there and give that back to you, Nate.
Yeah, I love what you were saying about how you started. It was something realistic, because the most important thing about like starting some kind of practice is to like, so the most important thing is that you actually do it. That's the most important thing. And like, when we try new things, whether it's like some exercise routine or some diet, or whatever, that we tend to set our sights too high. And we like try to go cold turkey, if we try to give something up, or we try and be like, I'm going to exercise every single day of the week. And it's like not realistic, and we psych ourselves out. And then like, then we don't meet that perfect standard, then we end up giving up. So when I first started, I found that the meditations, the free 21-day meditations that were given out by Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey, and like, it was like a little bit guided, and then it was just like 15 minutes, I want to say, of like, okay, that just you and the mantra. And like, I was doing that for maybe like a few months, and it was so hard. It was like, I ended up stopping doing that because I was like, I feel like I'm getting more like angry and restless and frustrated. Like, what the hell's going on? And then when I like really, really, truly started my dedication to the practice, just to like, the meditation practice, the practice in general, I was in my yoga teacher training, and my teacher was like, just start for 2 minutes, and then just like after a while go up to 3 minutes. I was like, yeah. So I literally started with 2 minutes. It's like I set my timer on my phone, sat down, followed my breath, would peek at my phone. Okay, 20 seconds went by. It's like, and then 2 minutes, and then like, added a minute to when it was realistic. And then, just doing what makes sense to you. And as you were talking about, you're trying to stop your mind, and you were saying that like, this is like, something that is like, part of nature, and it's always functioning. Like, I don't know what happens in deep dreamless sleep, but other than that, I'm pretty sure the mind is always going, like dreaming, waking, it's always going. And just think about the rest of your body. Your heart is always beating. Your body's always breathing. The blood is always flowing. That the immune system is like, always on alert. So why do you think that you could stop your mind? That's totally silly. It's like, I don't want to stop my heartbeat. I can't even stop my heartbeat. So why do we think that the brain and the mind is like this thing that's completely outside of all of nature? Because all of nature is always going. It's always in a state of creation.
Yeah, that's good. It's something that I'm really glad you brought this up, and I'm going to go back to what you're saying. So we've actually never had this conversation before, and you're going to love that I'm talking about this. So guided meditations, I hate them. I can't stand guided meditations.
Wait, no, but you like Yuki's meditations.
That's yeah. Good response. Good response. But I feel like that's not part of my practice. I feel like those are like just like extra things that I'm doing. Okay. So gotcha. That is more for like hypno. I would more say that's like hypnotizing. Okay. So where I'm trying to go with that is I know a lot of people that all they can do is guided meditations. And if that works for you, then do it. But don't be mad if it doesn't work for you, because I am one of those people. It really, really doesn't work for me. Unless I'm working on a specific subject, like Nate brings up a great point with one of our mentors. Unless I'm working on a specific subject, it does not do very much for me. And I don't know what that is, but I think what it is I don't like necessarily being told what to do. I just like to let my imagination run. So I love just being in that state of mind where I'm just feeling it and going with it. And so I just wanted to mention that about guided meditation and like the differences. And also just understand too, I think the really good point to make when starting a practice with this is try a bunch of things. We've talked about this before. There is research on walking meditation, guided meditation. There's like it feels like a million different types of meditation. Do what, works best for you. I know people that all they do is walking meditation. It's what they love to do. And they make a point to do it every day. And they get a lot out of it. And that's what works for them, So there are different practices that work for you. Just like there's different workout programs, different diets. There's always something that's going to cater towards what feels good for you. And, why is it important? Why am I such an advocate for it? Nate brought up a great point about blood flow, heartbeat. These are all things. I was just doing a quick Google search before this because I knew I wanted to talk about it. So there's, here are just a few things that help people manage symptoms or conditions. This is what meditation helps them with. Getting through anxiety, asthma, chronic pain, depression, heart disease, high blood pressure, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, and the list just like goes on and on and on. And notice I said helps with. It's not that it cures you, but it puts your body at a state of consciousness, mind, that you slow it down to help it relax. And that's what helps, there's a lot of science behind everything with it. And that's what helps your body heal. And so, that's another thing I really just wanted to point out today of just, reasons why I've continued to dive deeper with it and reasons why, you really should just give it a try. Just like we take the time to prepare our meals in the right way, to work out, to do a lot of other things for self-care. This is a huge part of self-care.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why it helps with basically everything is because it's just us returning to like our natural state. It's like allowing our body to return to its natural state, which our thinking mind, it pulls us in all these different directions. In the last episode we talked about whatever you believe is true for you, whatever you're thinking about, that your body reacts to that as the truth. So the meditation, a really beautiful way that I heard the word meditation described is complete acceptance with the present moment. And acceptance of what's happening right now is such a relief. It's like you're actually, so it's a state of non-resistance. So just think about if you're resisting something all day, if you're pushing against something all day and you're trying to don't get in here. I mean, it's gonna to really tire your physical body, right? Well, if you start to really become aware of your thoughts, and what you're thinking about all day and just how often we are resisting things all day, just think about your likes and your dislikes and how much of your day is focused on lining up all the things that you like and making sure that all the things you don't like don't happen. And then what happens when the things that you like don't go your way? It's oh no, why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening. Oh my God, now I can't do this, now I can't do that. All of that is resistance to the present moment. It's resistance to life. And it's tiring. So, the meditation is practicing. I really think that it's like practicing living your life a different way. So like, if I sit down or if I walk or whatever my meditation is, whatever the activity is, with the intention that this is the practice of meditation. This is the practice of surrendering my thinking mind, of completely accepting the present moment as it is, accepting myself as I am, and just being with life unconditionally. So no conditions. The only conditions that we put on anything come from our conditioned mind. But if we dropped all the conditions, dropped all of our opinions and our wants and our needs, and we're just with life, and we practice that deliberately in a controlled space that was easier to do than when you're at work or when you're in traffic or when you're talking to a partner or a friend, then when you are in those situations outside of meditation, then you're more likely to be able to be with that situation without your conditioned mind, without resisting it, without calling it, something right or wrong, and just be with it. And it's so much less draining energetically for everyone involved in the whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And that's just the most important thing to remember, is how draining our days can be and how tiring our days can be. And that's why this practice gives you such a boost, right? How many times, I'll ask you, Nate, how many times you tired during the day, and instead of taking a nap, you meditate and you're like ready to go,
Oh yeah.
That happens to me
For sure.
all the time now. And that's why, there is a lot of athletes and other very successful people that it's part of their daily practice. And there's who's the gentleman that started TM? What's his name?
Well, I don't know. I think Jai Guru Dev is the guy that maybe started it, but I don't even know that. I think it's way more ancient. But the guy that brought it to the West, his name is Maharishi.
Maharishi. So there's stories of him as he was bringing this to the West. There would be stories that he would literally sleep like 2-4 hours maybe a day, and he would just be meditating a lot. And I was actually really fortunate when what I'm talking about too is Transcendental Meditation is a big part of me and Nate's life. It's just called TM, so Transcendental Meditation. And I would recommend looking that up and checking it out because it's amazing and anyone could do it. And the teacher that taught me and Nate, he actually worked with that gentleman for a good chunk of his life and worked underneath him. And he would tell me stories that in the middle of the night he would get woken up at 11 o'clock because he would always write things down, and like he helped him write his books, and so he would be talking to him and he would be writing. So at 11 o'clock at night he would be woken up and be like, "Hey, are you ready to go? I'm ready to go now." So that is how much meditation can actually keep you at a state of mind that you're essentially sleeping without sleeping. And that's, really advanced work. I hope I could get there one day. But that just shows how much it can benefit with relaxation. It benefits with relaxation and puts you in like a deep sleep without being in a deep sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, and the research on Transcendental Meditation, which there is research, it's on like all kinds of meditation, but there's like an extensive amount on TM. Because when Maharishi brought it over to the West, he was a Vedic scientist, like one of the best Vedic scientists in the East. And he was really smart, and he went right away to like the top universities, and he was like, study this. So that started back in like the 60s or 70s. So now there's all this kinds of research, the scientific research, which like in the West we need scientific proof because we think that science is the ultimate truth. But really, science is only true until proven wrong, and science is proving all these ancient things right, just little by little by little. But yeah, beyond like just being relaxing, which that being relaxed is a really fundamental part of being like happy and loving. Um, but beyond that, it's like getting, again, like not thinking anymore, not doing the active thinking, which is the most tiring thing. I think it's the most exhausting thing that human beings do is thinking. So if we just allow that to stop, then we allow the energy inside of us to like do its thing. And it wants to be active, it wants to create, and it wants to engage with life. And I will that this question okay, so we're having some technical difficulties, so we'll just pick up again right here. That's what I was saying. I think was that this question, is unconditional love possible?
Yep.
I want to hear your answer to that. Is unconditional love possible?
Yeah, I believe unconditional love is 100% possible. I think you can have unconditional love for your family, your spouse, pets, other loved ones. I think unconditional love is completely possible.
Do you think that, well, so cool, man. I love that, the optimism. Let me rephrase it. Do you think that unconditional love exists currently?
In myself or in the world?
In the world.
In the world? No.
Yeah.
No. I think but I think that's because instead of looking to the world for unconditional love, we should be looking to ourselves.
Yeah, that is so good. And Yuki was just talking about this the other day, unconditional self-love. And I'd never heard about it. I'd never heard it like that before. I never heard the self put in there before. And I was like, wow, that there has to be unconditional self-love before there's unconditional love. Unconditional love,
Yeah.
love. And like, I do think that maybe there are some beings, the right now on the planet that are in a state of unconditional love, which is like, like a purely enlightened being, the fully in a meditative state, all the time. But yeah, like that people kind of throw around that unconditional love thing lightly sometimes. Like they say, like, oh, my parents unconditionally love me, or like, I love my kid unconditionally. But I mean, really, really think about that. Unconditionally. 0 conditions. That means that if that person did anything, think about any possibility that you can possibly think of, the worst thing ever, you would still love them 100%. Even like, as you're putting somebody in jail because they're like super dangerous to be out in public, and they just did like the really, really violent, horrible things. As you're putting that person away in jail, you do it with 0 hate in your heart, but you actually love this person so much that you're taking them away, from the situation where they'll hurt other people. So like, this, I think, is the ultimate goal of meditation and of the spiritual life, is to live life unconditionally. And to live life unconditionally is to love unconditionally, because love is like, the fundamental energy that underlies, everything all the time. And I think as we meditate, we quiet the mind and we get out of the way, I think that we start to like, settle down, and we come into a place where we can like experience that. So like, for example, in meditation, if you can just sit with yourself and all the thoughts coming into your head, and no matter what your body feels like, and you can be with yourself, without conditions, surrender all your conditions, well, then I think that you're, starting to touch and experience a place of unconditional, self-love, which is also, it's also unconditional love. And like, if that's the goal, or if that's the end result, well, damn, what if everyone was doing this?
Right. And, I do think to myself, what if everyone was doing this? And that's the thing. You can trace this back to other cultures, and in other countries, they're meditating a lot. And it's a way different atmosphere than what we're dealing with currently in the U.S. And I do believe, too, that we're going to get to a point, because it's pretty well known now, there's a lot more people meditating than there ever has been. And I think we're going to get to that point where a good chunk of the population is here. It's bound to happen at some point, right? Yeah, I mean, what a world would we be in if we're just aware of that question right there, of what unconditional love is, and what, ultimately what awareness is, right? And, I really want to choose my words wisely when it comes to awareness, because a lot of people get turned off by that, in a sense that they automatically would think like, oh, well, they just think that they're better than us because they're more aware, or the way they're saying that sounds really ego driven. Mm-hmm. But it's completely the opposite of what, we mean by awareness and what it means to us. Awareness to me is just to realize that, everything that we think is a big deal is really not that big of a deal. And unconditional love, in the sense, is like, we may be mad at our dog for doing something really messed up that we've trained it not to do, right? And it's to be able to let it go, like right away. Or we might be really mad at a spouse, but, a couple hours go by and we realize, that person really loves me at the end of the day. So that's what we mean by, awareness and perspective. And, it really is that simple, that I truly just believe there's really nothing that big of a deal at all.
Yeah. Oh, and that's like a huge realization, and to live life like that, like, it's really not that big a deal. I mean, oh my God, talk about like something that drains your energy is thinking everything is a big deal. But I love, one of my friends told me about this app called iCroak. And then it's an app that, like, that maybe 2 times a day it reminds you of death. Yeah, and it sounds like, oh my God, what a horrible app. But it's just simply reminding you of the beauty of this life, and that it's not permanent. Because one reason why we hold on to grudges is because we don't realize that, one, that the feeling inside of us is not going to last forever. 2, that the person doing whatever they're doing is not going to be doing that forever, but we think it's forever and we need to change it. Otherwise, we're going to be living life in this eternal prison of resentment. But also to remember that at some point, that person is going to die and I'm going to die too. So if that's the case, like if I could fast forward to that point where I'm about to die, or they're about to die, what am I going to really be thinking about? I'm probably not going to be thinking, hey, do you remember that time? Can you please just tell me I was right? Probably not. And this awesome Buddhist teacher that named Thich Nhat Hanh, that he says that in their monastery that he gives people a practice. Like if 2 loved ones are fighting, that they'll sit them down and they'll be like, okay, close your eyes. I want you to imagine what each other will look like 150 years from now. And obviously it's their dead bodies. So it's like, oh God, why am I so angry right now? And it just kind of puts things in a different perspective. Impermanence. It's like one of the most essential teachings of the Buddha, it's not gonna last forever. So, just experience it as it is, and try not to fight against it.
Right. And this is what you were saying earlier too, is that, going back to meditation, because I think we're just diving deeper and deeper and deeper, right? It's the sense that we're letting it go. We're letting ourselves go. We're just being. That's what meditation is. And another fun story about meditation that I really, really love, this story, is that we always forget about the Beatles, because that was kind of a different generation than at least mine, right? That wasn't technically my generation. I didn't grow up in the 60s. But the really cool thing about the Beatles that everyone doesn't realize is at one point they went to India to practice Transcendental Meditation. And the song Let It Be was written in India. And that whole, put that song on and just sit for 5 minutes and meditate and just listen to the words of Let It Be. And what they're talking about in that is just be. Just let everything be. And that really is what the core of meditation, I think you could say this too. That's really what it means for both me and you, is just being.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that when people, hear this, maybe like when they first hear it, I mean, I've had conversations with this, or about just letting it be, and letting it go, and just try to accept it as it is. It's really common to come back with, oh, what? So just let it be okay? What? So it's okay that's happening? It's okay that they're doing this? It's not okay. People are dying. The people are getting hurt. And it's like, no, it's not just being passive and letting everything happen, but it's just not that being reactive and trying to force and manipulate what's already happening. But if we can just like take a step back, take a deep breath, and maybe come at it from a different perspective, instead of acting out an emotional reaction, then oftentimes we'll come into the situation, maybe 30 seconds later, maybe a few minutes later, maybe an hour later, maybe a day later, where in that reaction we thought this was going to be the end of the world if we didn't act right now. But if you just waited and you let it be and you calmed yourself down, and you got in touch with that part of yourself that isn't judgmental, then you'll find that you come back into the situation, and what you bring into it now is actually like a much greater solution than what you had previously.
Yeah, and that's why when we check in, when we start this show, when we're doing that, it's because it puts us at a certain state of mind, or it makes us ground ourselves, and it brings in the energy that we want to. So if you're angry and upset, instead of overreacting, say that you need to take a minute and just chill out, because you may come back to that still fired up, right? But you're going to be saying words differently than what you did before. And eventually you'll get to a point where you're not fired up. I've been there, and I have quite the temper at certain times as well. And that's why, I'm really grateful for what the practice of meditation has done for me. In a lot of those aspects that were just rattled off when it comes to grudges and anger. I used to have all of those different things in my life way more before continuously practicing.
Yeah. And I mean, like, geez, patience. I think, I don't know what exact verse it is. It's like the Corinthians 13 or something like that. It's just like the beautiful explanation of what love is. And it says love is patient and love is kind. It's like patience with, yourself, patience with somebody else. And what does patience start with? It starts with acceptance. It starts with letting it be as it is right now. It'd be like, it's okay. I understand why I feel this way. I understand why you feel that way. It's okay. I'll be patient with you. That being patient is like such a beautiful form of love that you can give to somebody, or yourself too. And that's also maybe like another way, of describing meditation is we're practicing being patient.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's definitely, being patient is just slowing down, right? And yeah, that's what really helps us. I think this is a good time too to, we've talked about it a little bit here and there of kind of a practice to start, right? But I did want to kind of put out there a practice that really helped me transition into how I am practicing meditation 20 minutes a day, twice a day now. And one of those things that really helped change my perspective on quieting my mind down that I wanted to share is there's this meditation called cloud meditation. Okay. And this is for anyone that their response listening to this is, I can't stop thinking, right? This is perfect for you. Okay. So as you're meditating and settling your mind down, if you have a thought, imagine that thought is on a cloud. And then you see that cloud just passing you by. And then you have another thought and just envision it being on a cloud. And then you see it passing by. And before you know it, all the clouds will pass you by. And then you'll just be. So that's a great way to let go of your thinking brain and slow it down and realize that these thoughts are just passing us by.
Yeah, I really like that you brought up the sky analogy. So I love that too. There's like that thing, it's like that we can identify with the sky instead of identify with the clouds. Or like, sometimes it's really stormy and there's like wind and rain and lightning too. And like if we identify with the storm and everything that's happening in the sky, well then it's going to be a pretty turbulent life. But if we identify with the sky, right, knowing that it's always there and it's very steady and it includes everything in the sky. Everything, every cloud, every storm, every bird, every plane, it includes everything there. So it's all inclusive. And that's, also one thing. So we're all connected at the essential level. There's this energy that beats our heart, it keeps all of our systems going that we don't have control over. And there's this energy that's growing these blades of grass, that's rotating the earth, that's doing everything else in all of existence. There's this energy that is the mind. We don't choose to have these thoughts come into our head. They just come into our head. And realizing that they're not my thoughts, right? So not claiming ownership, this is my thought. Because what if you have a thought about killing somebody? What if you have a thought about this like really, really horrible insult? Because we all have those thoughts. Every single person has had horrible, horrible thoughts. And if we identify with thoughts as our own, then we're like, oh my God, I must be a horrible person. I had this thought, this like sick thought. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? But it's not your thought. It's actually that the human collective. So if you start watching your thoughts and you start becoming aware of what thoughts, not your thoughts, if you start watching the thoughts that are coming into your head, and you're able to more consistently watch it from the place of an observer instead of the place of the thinker, then you can start to develop a lot of compassion for the whole human collective. Because if you're able to watch, thoughts that are like terrible and atrocious and like, very harmful, to yourself. If you can start to watch those with like ease and compassion, then you'll start to actually gain understanding for everyone, because we're all having these thoughts. I don't know where this thought came from, but likely, it's a thought that somebody else or maybe many other people are experiencing too. So we're all the sky, our mind is all connected, it's all the sky, and then everything that's going through the sky, we're all also experiencing. Okay, cool. So we're back again after a little bit the more technical difficulties. so we're sorry about this. But this is the best episode, for all this stuff to have happen, because we're talking about acceptance and going with the flow and letting it be. So, let's just continue to ride that wave. The one thing that scares people of meditation is that they think that they're going to change into somebody else. I hear that all the time too. My teacher, when he was asked that just gave this awesome answer. He was like, yeah, that you're going to become more and more like yourself. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Once we drop, all these like ideas and concepts and beliefs about ourselves and the world that we got and we held on to unconsciously throughout our lives, well then, it's like Michelangelo, that he said that within every body of stone, he saw a perfect work of art, and all he had to do was like use his hand and his chisel to just to remove all the stuff that wasn't the perfect work of art. And that's us. That we go through life and we acquire, and we build up all these false things that aren't really ourselves, and we're just like this big, heavy, awkward, piece of stone. And it's like, really, we're already perfect underneath that all. So we can just let go of it, shave it away, let it melt away, and then underneath it, we're just already totally perfect.
That's perfect, yeah. And that's a good reminder of, we get scared to change, but we're not changing, we're growing. And it's our job on this planet to grow. Everything else in nature, if you really look around, it's always changing and evolving and growing. So what makes you think that you're that much more special, that you're not going to change and you're not going to grow? So, just remember that with wanting to add a practice to your life in any way, shape, or form. And I think the last thing to really say about meditation is just have fun with it. You're literally just sitting and relaxing, and you have 5 minutes a day to do that. So I think that's a good place to wrap it up from there, Nate, and send us off with an amazing meditation, and we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's do a little meditation. So I have this awesome singing bowl here that I'll ring for us. And so I'll just ring it once, and then just follow the sound for as long as you can. Just let your attention just drift off with the sound waves, and then I'll ring it again, and then I'll start talking. All right, just nice and easily start to take a couple breaths. And as you move on from here, possibly just keeping in the back of your head that the only thing that takes no time at all is to be present and to be exactly who you are in this moment. And if you want something to change, the most powerful thing to do is to accept it entirely in this present moment and just not even ask it to change, and then just see what happens. Alright, then if you're ready to slowly start to open the eyes, and I'll say thank you all for being here so much. Thank you, Ben, for this conversation. It was super fun, as usual.
Thank you, my friend, and thank you everyone for listening today. We hope you enjoyed the experience, and go out today and just be and enjoy the journey. All right, everyone, sending you lots of peace and lots of love.